wake up today to be average. So why are we living that way? I truly do believe that God wants us to be wealthy. God desires for us to live our best. You can have everything that you want in this life. You can have the money, the family, the marriage, the business, the car, whatever it is that you want. You can have it. Wealth is your birthright. You deserve to be wealthy. These are the secrets of a money mogul, the keys to living an abundant life. Hey moguls, welcome to another episode of the Secrets of a Money Mogul podcast. I'm your girl Jalesa Ann, and we are here recording is this episode 6? Episode 6, yes, episode 6. I just want to thank everybody that is listening today. I know I say this every week. I was just about to say today's topic is going to be good, but I really feel like I say that every week. But today I really had on my heart to talk about one of my favorite books, one that really just changed my life, really kind of launched my personal development journey, my financial journey, but really just changed me as a person. And it's one of the books that I really felt led to revisit. So I have been reading it the last couple of days, and some things have really stuck out to me, and I just am going to be sharing that with you guys today. And that book is called Don't Sweat the Small Stuff, and it's by Robert Carlson. And first off, before I even get into the book, let me just tell you guys, believe it or not, I used to be a little hot-headed, I used to have a little bit of a temper. I used to kind of fly off the handles. And for some of you who know me personally, in the last couple of years, y'all are probably like, no way. But I had a really bad temper, and I had awful road rage. My husband will tell you, when he first met me, I had awful road rage. And if you drive in Texas, I'm sorry, Texas people, I love y'all. I'm from Texas. I love Texas, all things Texas. But Texas people do not know how to drive at all. So when I moved back to Texas, I moved from Colorado, where people know how to drive in Colorado. So I don't know. When I moved back to Texas, I was shocked at the amount of people who did not know how to drive, who would cut me off the highway, who would, basically be wanting to run me into the median. And, I just used to have the worst road rage, to the point where I would be ready to get out the car and fight with people. And I don't know. This book single-handedly kind of cured my road rage. And it's funny that that thought came to me because the other day I was trying to go to the grocery store to get some cookie dough because I really wanted to bake some cookies. And this girl, it was kind of during rush hour, so I was trying to hurry up and go and get back home as soon as I could. And this girl had blocked the driveway, or not the driveway, when you turn into the grocery store, instead of turning on her side of the road, she had turned in the middle to where you couldn't go either way. I couldn't get into the parking lot for the grocery store. And so, of course, me seeing her blocking it, I'm like, what is she doing? Seriously, move it along. I'm trying to get to the grocery store to get my cookies. And I thought about this book. But eventually she scoot over a little bit so that I could at least get in to the driveway. And I rolled my window down and I told her, I said, I'm not sure if you noticed, but this goes two ways. And she's like, oh yeah, I saw it. That's why I moved over. I backed up so that you could get in. I'm sorry. And I just was like, oh, okay, great. And I thought back to 2011, Jalesa, back when I had bad road rage, what would have happened if that had have happened to me back then. She had been blocking the driveway. I probably would have went all the way off. And I say that only to say because this book talks about how we make small things such a big deal. We let the small stuff get in the way of us actually enjoying our life. Like, what is the big deal that I had to wait an extra 5 seconds for this girl to realize that she was blocking both sides of the driveway and back up and let me out? What's the big deal about that? And it just made me realize that we live our lives as like one giant emergency. Like, no wonder people are always in a state of anxiety, because it's always like, what's next? What's next? What's next? Like, we just can't take a breath and enjoy the moment. So in this book, Dr. Richard Carlson, he was a psychologist. Don't quote me on that. He did something with the mind. I'm pretty sure he was a psychologist. And he gives us 2 rules to live by. And the first rule is, don't sweat the small stuff. And the second rule is, it's all small stuff anyway. And he says, when you don't sweat the small stuff, your life won't be perfect, but you will accept what life has to offer with less resistance. And basically what he's saying is that you will allow life to just happen. One thing that really stuck out to me that he talks about in this book is that whenever situations occur, whenever things in your life happen, to ask yourself, will this matter in a year? And a lot of the things that we stress about, people, maybe the way people react to a situation with us, maybe the receptionist at the doctor's office was rude, and, maybe she treated us a certain way. And when we think about those times that happen, it's really just small stuff. In a year, are we going to care that the receptionist was having a bad day and was yelling at us? In a year, am I going to care about that lady who was blocking the driveway from me trying to go to the grocery store to get my cookies? No, in a year, I'm not going to care. In a year, it's not going to matter. In a year, it's not relevant to my family. So why do we pour so much energy into these small, menial things? And the reason that this book completely cured my road rage was because I realized that by me being so upset about somebody cutting me off on the highway, or somebody just, flying past me, I was just putting so much energy into that event. And then what would happen is I would talk about it all day, at the time I was working. So I would get to work and I would say, you won't believe what happened to me on the highway. And then I'd go home and I'd talk to my husband, who was my boyfriend at the time. And I'd say, you wouldn't believe what happened to me today. And it's like, I gave life to this situation that should have been dead a long time ago. So I want you to think about, what situations in your life are you giving life to? What small things in your life are you giving life to that should have been dead a long time ago, that God has been telling you to let go of a long time ago? But it's like you keep holding on to the lady blocking the driveway when you were trying to go get your cookies. Really? Like, what small stuff is really holding us back? So a couple of things, I want to pull a couple of quotes from the book and just kind of talk on them for a minute. And this is not going to be a really long episode today, because I have my family listening to my podcast, y'all, and they give me feedback. And I guess some of my episodes might be a little long for them. So this is not going to be a long episode today, but I do want to tell you guys a couple of quotes from the book that really stuck out to me. So one thing that he says is, if we would just slow down, happiness would catch up to us. If we would just slow down. So if we just didn't live our lives like we were in this big rush, like we were in such a rush to get to, I don't know, the next moment in life, if we just took a deep breath, happiness would catch up to us. And let me tell you, I am so much happier now. Like when I drive on the road and people do stupid stuff, like I literally just meet the situation with love. And it's taken me years to get there, because if you know how bad my road rage was, especially with crazy Texas drivers, it was pretty bad. It was very, very bad. But now when somebody does something, I'm like, ooh, I hope they get to where they're going, but not like a attitude like, ooh, I hope they get to where they're going. I'm really just like oh, okay, I hope they get there safely. Oh, let me just let him over. Let me just get out of his way. Let me just not even give this person the opportunity to even have any effect on my entire day. So if we would just slow down, happiness would catch up to us. Another thing that Richard Carlson says in this book is um, reflection is one of the most underused yet powerful tools for success. So how often do we reflect on our days? How often do we reflect on the positive things in our day? And I want you guys to actually this week, I want you guys to go through your particular day as you would normally go through your day. And I want you to recognize all the small stuff you're giving power to. Your coffee wasn't hot enough. It didn't have enough sugar. Your French fries were cold. Whatever it is, that's small stuff. Ask yourself, is this going to matter in a year? And if it's not, breathe and let it go. Breathe, let it go, slow down, and let happiness catch up to you, because it's not worth stressing over cold coffee or fries or someone blocking the driveway, or even someone at the grocery store, running into you with the cart or whatever. The craziest things happen to me at the grocery store, but that's a whole nother podcast episode. Don't let those things gain power over you. Begin to reflect on your day and notice where you are giving power to some of these small things. The second thing that I want you or the second quote that I'm going to give you from Richard Carlson is, choose to be kind over being right. You'll be right every time. So this is one of those things that I really feel like the first time that I heard about this was in marriage counseling. When the counselor was telling us, you can be happy or you can be right. And you have to decide which one is more important to you. Would you rather be happy or would you rather be right? And honestly, every time I'm going to choose happiness. Every single time, because I realized that what is the point in being right? What is the point in proving somebody wrong? And even then, I see life from my perspective. I see life from my lens. I see life based on my values and the things that I learned growing up. I learned very quickly that my husband and I grew up two different ways and we learned things very differently, and we see the world very differently. And I cannot make him see things from my perspective. We can have a conversation. About it, and then maybe he'll understand it a little more. He'll be more understanding about me, but I can't change his upbringing. I can't make him see the things that I see. So you can be happy or you can be right. And this is not just in relationships. This is just in everyday life. Sometimes we want to go arguing with clients. Sometimes we want to go arguing with colleagues or whoever it might be about the smallest things, because we want them to see life from our lens. But remember, we are a product of our choices. We are a product of what happened to us. We are a product of our habits and our lives, and our lives are all different. So everybody sees things from a different lens, and we can't force them to see things from our lens. So choose being kind over being right, and you'll be right every time. Another thing Richard Carlson says is, we need to break the habit of overreacting because of our speedy assumption and judgments. So break the habit of overreacting. How many times can you look back on a situation and recognize that you overreacted? That you gave the smallest, minutest thing the most power that it absolutely did not need. I've done that several times. There's been several times in life that I've given small things too much power, way too much power. Another thing that Richard Carlson says is you are what you practice most. You are what you practice most. And this is one thing that I learned early on in my personal development journey, is that you are a product of your habits. When it comes to money, you are a product of your habits. Everything about your financial situation is the way that it is because of your habits, because of what you've practiced over and over and over and over again. So in order for you to change your financial blueprint, in order for you to change your financial habits, you got to change your mindset, and you have got to change your what you practice most. You've got to change your habits. You got to change what you do over and over and over and over again. Another thing that Richard Carlson says is life is a process, just one thing after another. When you lose it, just start again. Just start again. And this goes back to what's going to be a recurring theme in this podcast. You guys are going to hear me say this over and over and over and over and over again, because this is just something that I live by. And that is, at any time, you can choose to make different choices. You can choose to change your life. Don't ever let anybody tell you that you are stuck where you are, because you are not. You are not at all. So like he says, life is a process, just one thing after another. When you lose it, just start again. Just start over again. Your business fails, just start over again. You thought you were going to gain a particular client and they decided not to work with you. That's okay. Just start over again. There are plenty of other clients out there. There are plenty of other opportunities out there. And one thing that I've always prayed is this or something better. This or something better. So I know that if whatever I'm craving, whatever I'm wanting, if it doesn't happen, it's because God has something better for me. When I was dating, if the relationship didn't work out, it was because I knew God had something better for me. And thank God that I met my husband, because he's an amazing man and I just absolutely love being married to him. But he is definitely better, much better than anything that I previously might have settled for, had those relationships worked out. But they didn't. So God gave me better. Another thing he says is, meanwhile, life keeps moving forward. The truth is, there's no better time to be happy than right now. If not now, then when? So choose to be happy in this moment. While you are stressing over the small stuff, while you are, busy being upset over the small stuff, life is moving forward. Life is moving forward with or without you. So if you want to be stuck on the past, if you want to be stuck on a past mistake, if you want to be stuck, on the past financial mistakes that you've made, life is moving forward. So there's no better time than right now to choose to be happy. There's no better time than right now to choose to make different choices. There is no better time than right now to choose to change your life. This is what happens. So at the time I'm recording this episode, I don't know, when everybody's listening to it, but at the time I'm recording this episode, it's November of 2018. 2018. And people have the habit of wanting to wait until January 1st to make any real change to their lives. It's like, oh, I'm just going to wait till the 1st. Do not, everybody listening to the sound of my voice, do not wait till January 1st to make changes in your life. Choose today. Choose now. Choose today to make a choice to start whatever goal it is that you have planned for 2019. Start it today. Start it today. So where am I at here? Okay, another thing that he says is we deny the parts of ourselves that we deem unacceptable rather than accepting the fact that we're all less than perfect. As a recovering perfectionist, I've talked about this on the podcast before, but as a recovering perfectionist, I know that nobody's perfect. Nobody's perfect. I'm not perfect. You're not perfect. If we can all recognize that we are all imperfect beings, we will all be a lot happier. So recognize that even the people that disappoint us, that let us down, that maybe fall short of what we expect from them, they're not perfect. So leading with grace and love in every area of our lives can really help us to be far more happy and far more successful in different areas. So, and the last thing I'm going to talk about, he talks about criticism, like swearing, is actually nothing more than a bad habit. So if you are overly critical of everyone around you, of situations, or even of yourself, sometimes we're just overly critical of ourselves. We are just our biggest, hardest critic. And if you're one of those people who is overly critical, it's nothing more than a bad habit. So it's nothing more than changing that habit, than recognizing that you are being overly critical and deciding that you're not going to be, that you're no longer going to sit here and criticize another person who is just doing the best with what they've been given, just living life from the lens that they have. It's not our job to change everybody and make everybody see things the way that we want to see it. So that's all I pretty much have for you guys today. If you guys have not read that book, definitely pick it up. It's called Don't Sweat the Small Stuff by Robert Carlson. And he has a Don't Sweat the Small Stuff all about money. I'm going to touch on that in another episode, because that is also an amazing book. You can pick up both copies on Amazon or Barnes & Nobles or wherever books are sold. The prayer challenge was delayed just 1 week, so we are starting that on Monday. You can still sign up. I'll be so happy for you to join me. We are going to be praying for our prosperity, praying for our abundance, praying for God's favor for the rest of 2018 and for the new year. The link will be in the bio. What else do I have to tell you guys? So interview requests for people on the podcast has gone out. So if you have someone that you think should be on this podcast that you think I should interview, please shoot me an email or a DM or whatever it is. There's plenty of ways to contact me. So please feel free to contact me, slide in my DMs, let me know who you think I should interview for this podcast. But the first round of emails has gone out, so I'm waiting on some people to accept, and then we'll be having some guest experts on the show. So I'm so thankful that you guys have decided to hang out with me for another episode, and I will see you next week. Thank you so much for listening to the Secrets of a Money Mogul podcast. I know that you know 3 to 5 people who could use this information. So please, please, please go ahead and share this episode. Be sure to rate us on iTunes and subscribe, and follow me on social media. I will be chatting with you guys again next week. Thank you.